Okay, this is about how to memorize port numbers for the CompTIA A+ exam. So the situation is that there are 17 ports that learners are expected to know. And the desired result is being able to memorize both these abbreviations for the protocols and the port numbers and link those together. And it's difficult for our brains to remember numbers, especially. So one approach for memorizing numbers is to associate those numbers with letters. And this is called the major memory system, where 0 represents S, Z, or soft C, 1 represents D, T, or TH, 2 represents N, 3 represents M, 4 represents R, 5 represents L, 6 represents J, 7 represents K, and that hard C sound, 8 represents F or V, and 9 represents P or B. And this is a link to a video that is helpful for learning those, and it emphasizes that 0 is the ceiling, 1 is the top of your head, 2 is your nose, 3 is your mouth, 4 is your rib, 5 is your liver, 6 is your hip joint, 7 is your kneecap, 8 is your fibula, and 9 is the bottom of your foot. So if you memorize those 10 things, then that can help you memorize many more things, and you can also springboard that by turning 2-digit numbers into a picture. And this is a link to a list of 999 numbers with the word association technique. So for this task of memorizing port numbers for CompTIA, I have some images for the letters from A to Z, and I have some images for the numbers from 0 to 9. So 0 is the letter C or Z or S, and so 0 is the ceiling. 1 is the letter T or D, the top of your head, that's represented by a tie. 2 is for the letter N, for your nose. This is a picture of Noah. He's releasing a dove from Noah's Ark. 3 is for M. This is a picture of a mama, and she has one child on each arm, so that's M for mama or mouth. 4 is for R, for your rib, or this is a picture of a race, so the letter R. 5 is for the letter L. This is a picture of the scales of justice, and they're my image for the law. And you can choose whichever images resonate with you. And 6 is for shoes, and 6 is for the letter J or SH, and so on. So you have shoes. 7 is for your kneecap, that hard K sound, so that's a cow. 8 is for the letters F or V, so there's ivy, and 9 is for the letters B or P, so there's a bumblebee. And Pexels.com is a good source for freely usable images. So using these, before we get to the ports, here are some private IP addresses. The private IP addresses are 10, 172, or 192. So 10 is 10 or 10 toes. 172 is TCN or toucan for the hard C, and TPN is for typing. So 10, 172, and 192 are the private IP addresses. All right, and the local host is 127. So 1 is T, 2 is N, and 7 is the K sound, so TNK is a tank. And that's a port. Okay, and a PIPA, also known as the local address, 169.254. So, and then TSHB is Toshiba dot NLR is an inhaler. So Toshiba inhaler. Maybe they're in a panic because they cannot connect with the internet. And so they need, on their laptop, so they need their inhaler. All right, now to the ports. FTP, so this person has their feet up. They have their feet up, and so that it uses ports 2, 0, or 2, 1. 2, 0 is also, NS. NS is your nose. That's a picture of a dog's nose. And 2, 1. NT is for net, so that's a picture of a net. So maybe their feet are smelly, and that's why they're up. Who knows? All right, so SSH. SSH, so here's a picture of a librarian shushing someone. SSH, and the port is 22, which is NN, and NN is for none, and maybe the librarian and the nun are having a shushing contest. Telnet, this is a fabric called tulle, which is like a net fabric, so tulle net, and telnet is 23.23 NM, and NM is Nemo, so maybe Nemo got caught in the tulle net. Hopefully not. SMTP. SMTP. SMTP reminded me of sesame seeds on top of a bun. So sesame seeds on top of a bun. Maybe that port number is NL, so N is 2 and L is 5, so 25. NL 25 is nail. Maybe you remember that because the sesame seed bun is made by hand, or maybe you don't eat the sesame seed bun because there's a nail in it. DNS is for dance, and the port number is 5 for L and 3 for M, so 53 is the port number, and LM is the lamb. So maybe if Mary was separated from her little lamb and then she was reunited with her lamb, then she would dance for joy. DHCP, DH, Baseball American League has a designated hitter, and the port number is 6, 7, and 6, 8. So either the chick or the joke for 67, or GIF. And so maybe at Fenway Park the game has to come to a halt, and it's because there's a baby chick on the field and they need to get rid of that baby chick off the field in a jiffy so that they can continue with the baseball game. Alright, and HTTP. HTTP reminds me of like a hat top, and a hat top is not a word, but a top hat is, and that's a fancy hat. And a fez is a fancy hat because it has a tassel on the top. And fez, F is 8 and Z 0, 80, so HTTP is port 80. POP3. POP3, the port number is 110, and DTS. So DTS is like for dots. It's a picture of dots. And dots remind me of the bubbles in fizzy water, and fizzy water carbonation reminds me of pop. Okay, NetBIOS and NetBT. So there's the net in a bus and the net in a bat. So NetBIOS and NetBT. Alright, so their port numbers are 137, 138, 139. T, M, hard C, be atomic. T, M, V, be hit movie. There's actually a movie called Hit Movie. And D, M, B, be Dumbo. And Dumbo is a hit movie. So that could help with remembering that. IMAP, there's a map as a symbol for IMAP. And if I were taking a tram, then I would definitely need a map. So 1 for T, 4 for R, and 3 for M. 143 is for IMAP. Alright, SNMP. So sun, that reminds me of SunMap for that. And this is 161 and 162. TCHT for hatchet. It's a picture of a hatchet. And this is a picture of an audition. So D-sh-N. So maybe these actors are auditioning for an Agatha Christie murder mystery, and there's going to be a hatchet and the sun will be blocked out and there's a treasure map or a secret map. Okay, LDAP. LDAP could be light up or hold up, depending on what you prefer. And LDAP uses port 389 MVP, and I link the light up and the hold up. This is a picture of move up, MVP, move up. So that's how I remember I match up the L's for memorizing LDAP. Okay, and SLP, it's like slip. It's port 427, and that's RNK for rink. It's a picture of Rockefeller Center ice rink, and also a ring. And if you get married, then you slip a ring on your finger. HTTPS. TPS is like tapes. That's a picture of tapes. That's 443 RRM. So RRM is for rewarm. And this is a picture of a person who is rewarming their slice of pizza over an open fire, and maybe they have used the tapes to rewarm the pizza. SMB is for Samba, which is a kind of a dance. Its port number is 445, or RRL, which is rural. That's supposed to be a picture of a rural area. And folk dance is done by people in rural areas. It originated in rural areas. So that's how I remember that. AFP. So F for this one, this is intended to be a picture of a VP, a very important person, because he's putting a crown on his head. The port for AFP is 548. For LRV for a larva. So maybe he is the crown prince of the worms. And RDP is 409, and we have 33, and then 89 is F, and then P. So 409 is the mama, two mamas and the crown prince. And some bonus beyond the ports are USB specifications. So there's 1.1 gets tan. This is a picture of a person who's tan. So T is 1, N is 2, so 12 megabits per second. USB 2.0 could do, this is a picture of roofs. R is 4, F is 8, and S is 0. So 480 megabits per second. I would say for these numbers, just take them with a grain of salt, because sometimes speeds are, maximum versus typical and so on. So check your book, check your materials to see what you think these numbers are, but they should give you a ballpark idea. So 3.0 is 5 gigabits per second, 3.1, 10 gigabits per second, 3.2, the nose is 20 gigabits per second. And I have a note that micro USB was used to connect older smartphones. Another bonus is regarding 802.11 standards. 802.11a is 5 gigabits per second, and that's a picture of 5 gigabits per second. 802.11b this is a 24-hour clock, so that's to remind me of 2.4 gigabits per second, and that's a picture of 2.4 gigabit per second frequency. 802.11g is, do I have that correct? Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah. 802.11g is also 2.4 gigabits per second. 802.11n is either 5 gigabits per second or 2.4 gigabits per second, depending. And that uses MIMO. And 802.11ac uses 5 gigabits per second, and that's a picture of multiple user MIMO. Alright, another bonus is form factors for cases, and that's a picture of a tuxedo or a tux. So ATUX, it's a picture of a tan, which is T is 1, N is 2, so 12 by 9. PJs are 9.6. So that's 12, and that's intended to represent about 9.6. A micro ATX is 9.6 by 9.6. That's there. And a mini ITX is 6.7 by 6.7. And that's a picture of what about 6.7 inches is. And that's a picture of a micro ITX. And micro ITXs are often used in home theater because they have passive cooling, they're quiet. And Minnie Mouse is a movie star who you might see on your home theater. Another bonus is a form factor for drives. And the question could be, is that form factor for a laptop or a desktop? So M.2 is a form that goes into a laptop, and there are 4 sizes, and the dime with the quail egg is supposed to represent a size comparison. There are 4 sizes, and the most common one is 80 millimeters or 80 millimeters, which is about that big. And it's a mini card interface, and it's faster than SATA. The nail is 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches, which is about that much. That would go in a laptop. TV is 1.8 inches, which is that much, and that uses a micro SATA connection. And that would go into a laptop, and that's pretty much what that would look like. And then the mole is 3.5 inches, which is that wide, and that would go into a standard desktop. Another bonus is encryption for wireless networking. This is a picture of weeping, and this is for WEP, or wired equivalent privacy. And maybe the toddler is weeping because they have no privacy. That uses the RC4 and a 40-bit encryption key and a 128 initialization vector. And moving on, this is a US postage stamp of a whooping crane, and that's the stand for WPA, which is Wi-Fi protected access. That's the Wi-Fi symbol. This is a picture of a knight in shining armor, and even the horse is wearing armor, so it's protected, and that's the symbol for access. And so that also uses RC4, but it incorporates TKIP, or TKIP, which is a time-sensitive key. And WPA2, or Wired Protected Access 2, uses AES and CCMP encryption. And that's a picture of that, AES. And WPA3 is the most secure and offers the best privacy. I encountered one question that wanted to know how many volts were involved in charging I think a laser printer drum or something like that. So the juices are 600 for the juices, so it had minus 600 volts. For home automation, for a mesh network, 2 choices. The first one, the character is Ziggy, or ZigBee, and that Zigbee operates at 2.4 gigahertz, and the Z-Wave operates at 800 megahertz or 900 megahertz. And an additional bonus is cellular networks. There's 3G. 3G uses HSPA plus. H is for the horse. That's a picture of a spa, and then the plus, and that's the symbol that it uses. And it's 20 megabits per second. And 3G also uses VD, which is 3 megabits per second, I think. And 4G uses LTE and 20 megabits per second, and LTE Advanced, which Roses is 400 megabits per second. Again, take the numbers with a grain of salt and check your own reference, because there are like theoretical maximums and what you typically get in practice. So check your own reference for that, but this should be okay as a rule of thumb. And 5G got a kazoo, so that'd be like 70 gigabits per second. All right, another bonus is power supply wires. The yellow ones are 10 or 12 volts DC. Those 12-volt wires are used to power things like optical drives and fans and hard disks. The red wires have 5 volts DC and the orange wires have 3.3 volts DC. Cable length, a copper cable can go for about 100 meters. This is supposed to be a picture of a coaxial cable. It can go for about 200 meters to maybe 500 meters. And this is an image of a fiber optic cable, and that could go kilometers or miles. Function keys, F12 could be used in the boot process, and if a particular laptop is set up for it, then FN plus F8 could be used to switch monitors on laptops. And get to this slide with the cats for twisted pair cable specifications. So, Cat5 is 100 megabits per second, Cat5e is 1 gigabit per second, Cat6 is 10 gigabits per second, and that can go about 55 meters. Cat6a can go 10 gigabits per second and stretch 100 meters, and Cat7 can go 10 gigabits per second and 100 meters, and it offers better crosstalk resistance, and it's also known as Class F. Our last slide is some other cable specifications. That's what Thunderbolt 1 or 2 looks like. They had like 40 gigabits per second, and Thunderbolt 3 uses a USB-C connector. Thank you.